comparison can lead you into a space of unproductivity, of feeling not inspired, right? What you want to try to do is, how can I gain confidence and how can I gain inspiration? Because how I feel unproductive is when I don't feel inspired. So what do I do when I don't feel inspired? I try to get inspired. I go on a walk and I listen to a podcast. I love listening to Smart Lists. It's, they talk about acting a lot and it's super funny, and truly after I listen to it, I'm inspired, right? Listening to this podcast right now. This is helping you. So after, you might take a small action on something that is going to push you forward in your career. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode number 7 of Ground Up with Natalee. This week is another Chat with Nat. I think this is like the 3rd Chat with Nat episode. I'm really loving these, but I'm getting used to them because there's not that much you can prepare. You can kind of just, I love talking with you guys and seeing what you want me to talk about. But other than that, it's not like acting where I get to memorize something, which is honestly helpful. I'm just kind of drawing on my own inspiration and, of course, the inspiration that I get from y'all. So this week's episode is based around some acting stuff, but I think no matter if you're an actor or a makeup artist or a nurse or a lawyer, I think that anyone could get some really good nuggets out of this episode. So definitely keep listening for that. And I think this episode, I'll go ahead and do timestamps at the bottom, kind of telling you what I talk about in each section of the episode, so you can scroll and listen to this part or that part. So I did a poll on my Instagram today, and I actually asked you guys what I should talk about on today's Chat with Nat, and I got some great feedback from you guys. So the 4 things I put on the poll were my experiences with the shows that I've already booked, how I've dealt with rejection in the industry, and how to book, tips and tricks on how to book roles. And then I did a 4th option that said all of the above. And the one that won was indeed the one that said all of the above. So I thought, okay, I could put it all in this episode, but then I started writing it out, writing out my outline of what I want to talk about with you guys. And some new inspiration came up. So I'm not going to do all of those in this episode because it would be too long, but it'll be better. I'm going to break it up and do certain topics in like next week's episode. The first thing I'm going to talk about in today's episode is actually a DM I got from those polls from an actor who asked, what should an actor be doing during downtime, and how do I not fall into the trap of comparison when I'm looking at other people who have a lot of auditions, or when I think that it's quote unquote pilot season and I'm simply not busy? Like, what should I be doing outside of acting? What's important? What passions? What hobbies? Do I have the time to do it? All that sorts of stuff. And I absolutely love that question because it is so relevant to all of us, but it's also relevant if you're not an actor, right? If you are a doctor or a lawyer or an esthetician and you're working all these hours, you have other hobbies that you do, right? You actually probably want to decompress from working all those hours and do something that you love to do, whether it's roller skating or baking, or you probably have a side business on Poshmark, something that keeps your mind going, that keeps you happy, right? Because if you were to clock out of your job, your 9-to-5 job, and then be like, okay, well, I'm going to binge TV all day and then get back at it tomorrow, chances are, you're not going to be like filled up with purpose and happiness. And that's how, you can lead to having anxiety about like, what am I doing? What am I supposed to be doing? And so my point of saying this is the same goes for us actors. We need to have something else that we love to do. I'm going to go off on kind of a tangent / story here about my experience in New York when I filmed Power. And I think that it's really important because it's a great example of how acting wasn't enough. Like, it physically, my time on set over the course of 8 months was not enough to keep me remotely busy. Like, I would be, if I didn't build a business while I was there, which I'll get to right now, I would be probably depressed. So I'll take you back a little bit to when I flew to New York, which was Halloween Day 2020. And quite literally, it went from not having anything going on, obviously from the pandemic, to, okay, we want Natalee to fly out in a week to New York, and she's moving there for 8 months. And when I tell you that's what they said, like I didn't get that much of a heads up, it is very true. And that's fine with me, right? Like, this is my dream. This is what I want to do. It's fine. I moved out of my Los Angeles apartment, put everything in storage, moved to New York to start filming a new show. And I'm so excited, right? This is my dream. And because of the work I had done previously, I knew that it wasn't necessarily going to, like, make me feel 100% happy. I knew that I had other endeavors that I enjoyed, but I wasn't quite prepared for what was about to happen next. I get to New York, I get to my new apartment, and it's the pandemic. I moved there alone. It's a new city. I don't know anyone in this city. I'm just gonna give you the spoiler here, okay? I counted the days that I worked on set while filming Raising Kanan. I believe you may be shocked with how many days I worked within 8 months. I was there from Halloween Day until July, and I worked a cumulative of 20 days for 8 months. And so, do the math, I had a lot of time off. What I did during this time, because I had so much space for myself and to think and to reflect, I got really quiet with myself every day. And I wasn't on social media much. And again, I'm in this new city. I can't call a friend and go to coffee. It is the pandemic. It's really cold and really dark in New York. So if you're putting the pieces together, I mean, you could see like not much going on. I don't know my castmates yet because I'm working like one day in 2 weeks. And then I'm working with one castmate. So like I met him and then I worked with him a lot. So he was kind of the only person I knew for a really long time. Within this time that I had there, I was like, okay, I have the control to create a positive time here, right? I'm not about to take this experience for granted. What can I do to make sure that I make this the best time that I can have? I know it's going to go away in the blink of an eye. I know that July is going to come before I know it. Mind you, I didn't know that I was going to be filming so little as the weeks went on, right? I was like, okay, they're going to email me and I'm going to need to be on set next week. And then the next week would come and I'm like, oh, cool, I got one day. And then 2 weeks later and I'm like, oh, great, they needed me on set one day. Again, I went back and counted and it was 20 days and 8 months. Anyway, so I took this time and space, and I remember I was reading a book called The Artist's Way, and it really changed my life because it teaches you as an artist or as a human being how to tap into your creativity, how to tap into your self-discovery. And it had prompts in there. It was a workbook. It made me go on artist dates by myself, which was taking myself to coffee, taking myself to dinner, going on walks, and giving myself a spa day. Like, it literally said that in this book. These were the things that one should be doing to expand their creative mind. And it was perfect for me because I had nothing else to do. So during this time, I was really keen on becoming more expansive. How can I grow? How can I make it so that I'm not depending on the creators of the show, on the writers, on the executive producers, on when I'm coming back to set? That's not in my control. The only thing I can control is what I do in my day to day. What this ultimately led up to was that I developed my brand, Magic Mornings. If you don't know about Magic, it is a journal that I created during this time in New York. And I quite literally built this brand from the ground up in New York, in my little apartment. This brand would be nothing to what it is today if I didn't have all of that time and space to create it, because I truly had this freedom in a way. Again, I didn't have control over the time that I did have. And I think looking back, having that experience, I could be like, okay, I want to create that same scenario, but like in my life, even right now, even though I do have all my friends in this city, and I can distract myself with social media, and the pandemic isn't happening. So I can, go to all these different places. But how can we create that space for ourselves to hunker down, settle in, and figure out what we love to do? That's not just our one career path, because it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. You want to have a Rolodex of things that you enjoy doing. I feel like that's what can truly lead to happiness and purpose. and it can ultimately combat that anxiety or depressive feeling, which I could have very well had when I was in New York. And of course, I want to say, don't get me wrong, there were days where I didn't feel inspired. I didn't feel motivated. And that's okay. That's going to happen, but it's taking control over not being in that slump for more than an extended amount of time, right? Because life is too short, life is too beautiful. You don't want to be um trapped to your couch just because you're not getting an audition or you're not booking a job. We have to create that momentum, create that energy for ourselves. And in turn, it magnetizes new opportunities and new people and new friendships and new ideas and business ideas. Okay, so also during this time on set while filming Power, as I said, I worked not very often throughout this 8 months. And I was also auditioning the entire time because I was still what is called a recurring role. And even though I was a really nice chunk of this show, I wasn't what I ultimately and what my managers and agents and my team wanted me to be, which is the lead on the show. And so because I wasn't contractually bound, I was able to continue to audition. And so I was also auditioning while I was in New York and creating magic, but the auditions weren't, flowing in all the time. Again, it's the pandemic. I can't travel. And I was seeing friends that were auditioning more than me because they were in LA and they didn't have a time constraint where they were shooting something else. We can get caught in this trap of feeling like, how am I not getting these auditions? Why am I not getting these auditions? Why aren't I auditioning at all? Totally understand it. But let's talk about comparing ourselves to other people. As we know, comparison is the thief of joy. Let me give you an example of a little metaphor situation here. So whenever I go to like a fair, which I love going to fairs, I'm a big Orange County fair goer. One of my favorite games to play is that little, it's like you sit down in those bar stools and then put your hands on it and you put your thumbs on the little buttons and then water shoots out and you're wanting like your horse to win the race or your little stuffed animal to hit the top. And you're trying to make the water go into the bullseye, right? And I always win this game. And I feel like the reason I always win this game is because I sit down, I pay the guy, my tickets, and he's still getting other people to come play the game and sit on the bar stools next to me. And if you're the only one playing or one other person, guess what? The odds of you winning the stuffed animal are much higher. But I don't care how many people are going to come play this game with me, right? I'm sitting there, I'm focused on this bullseye. My fingers are already pushing the buttons for the water to go out when he says 3, 2, 1, go. And I'm sitting there and he's scanning other people's tickets. All right, we got another one. Now there's maybe 10 people, 5 people next to me. I don't know. I don't fucking care. I'm looking at the bullseye. I'm pushing the things. And when he says go, I am making sure that the water is full on in the bullseye all the way until, guess what? My horse wins, right? I'm not looking anywhere else. I am not focused on anyone else around me. I'm not focused on the person playing a different game over here and this person screaming on a ride over here. I'm just focused on that one thing. And I think that that's the same principle that should go into auditioning, right? Focus on what you need to be doing. Nobody else. All you can control is how you prepare an audition and how you show up to that character and that role and the tape that you send out to your agent, which goes to producers and networks. You can't control what other people are doing. Now, if you're not getting auditions at all, that's a conversation for you and your agent and manager to have. But to sit there and be like, I'm not getting auditions, but this person is, that's just a complaining mindset, right? Have conversations with your fellow actors. Hey, what are you going? Oh, wow, you're going out a whole bunch. I better talk to my team here. Comparison can lead you into a space of unproductivity, of feeling not inspired, right? What you want to try to do is, how can I gain confidence and how can I gain inspiration? Because how I feel unproductive is when I don't feel inspired. So what do I do when I don't feel inspired? I try to get inspired. I go on a walk and I listen to a podcast. I love listening to Smart Lists. It's, they talk about acting a lot and it's super funny. And truly, after I listen to it, I'm inspired, right? Listening to this podcast right now, this is helping you. So after, you might take a small action on on something that is going to push you forward in your career. Watch a movie. Okay, I need to watch a movie. I need to be re-inspired. What can you control to cultivate the best career that you possibly can manage? I would say one thing not to do if you're trying to be inspired or you're trying not to get down on yourself about comparison and what other actors in your community or influencers or pretty much anyone is doing is scrolling on social media. You guys, my number one superpower is that I don't go on social media and scroll. I don't. I don't know if that's a shocker or not. I don't know if you guys do that or not, but I don't sit on TikTok and scroll ever. If anything, Instagram. I never scroll on TikTok. And I don't look at people's stories because what happens to me when I do this is I see someone who is doing something that I want to be doing. And I think, oh, well, I'm never going to be able to do that. How am I going to be able to, create that beautiful scenery and that beautiful video? Well, guess what? I'm not a social media content creator. So I haven't been working on that for 10 years, right? We look at something and we think, oh, I can never do that because I don't know how. So I might as well not even try at all. But what you're watching is probably someone who has been creating content for a decade or someone who has been pursuing a career for a decade, right? If you're looking at a New York Times bestselling author talk about her book, or you're looking at someone from Euphoria talk about their character, and you get down on yourself and you're like, well, that's not going to be me. So this is what happens when you start scrolling and you come across these things, unless it inspires you, okay? For me, it doesn't necessarily inspire me. Sometimes I might be like, oh, that's a cool video. Like, I kind of want to try to recreate that, or that's a cool hairdo. I kind of want to try that. But for the most part, I get pretty down on myself because I'm like, how does she have an Emmy? Like, when is that going to be me? It's not me right now. How is their podcast so good, right? How did they make these clips so perfect? And she knows exactly what she's talking about. And her hair looks so, why? Why does one want to do that to themselves? If we can control that by not going and scrolling for a little bit, then why don't we do that? Like, limit yourself at least. Okay, I'm going to scroll for 10 minutes and then I'm going to put my phone away. Or I'm going to limit myself to, aimlessly going on the internet twice a day. Everything else is going to be intentional. I'm going to go on to post something. I'm going to go on to check on my favorite content creator to see if they posted that new recipe. But if we could train ourselves to stop the scroll, I think we would all be a lot happier and healthier. Truly. I think it is detrimental to be going on your phone constantly and comparing yourself to others. Okay, another way to stay motivated when you feel like you're not auditioning or like other people are auditioning more than you, or you feel like it's supposed to be quote unquote pilot season and you're not going out at all. I think something that we could be doing throughout the year is celebrating our wins, our quote unquote small wins. This is something that I definitely need to be doing. Okay. If you get good feedback from a casting director, if you get good feedback from an agent or manager, if you get a great meeting, let that last for at least a week. I feel like it's so fleeting, and I'm preaching to the choir right now. I'm talking to myself. Like, I can book something and be like, well, hell yeah, you should have booked that, Natalee. You've been working your ass off for the last however long. And I think that's an okay mindset to have, like to be like confident in a way where it's like, hell yeah, I'm ready, to be working on this project. I've auditioned for this casting director 10 times. It's about time. But I feel like I could be relishing in it more and for longer and celebrating. Like, you guys, we, as cliche as this might sound, we only have this moment right now. And I feel like I'm realizing that a lot more as I get older. And so if I can give this advice to anyone, it's like, relish those small wins. What can you do to celebrate yourself? I don't even celebrate myself to my mom. Call my mom, hey, this just happened. I act so nonchalant, like, oh yeah, whatever. It was, I had this really cool meeting with this casting director. No, that's awesome. And guess what's going to happen when you're out there putting positive energy and the fact that you just got great feedback on a huge audition or on any audition? You're going to be a magnet to that type of energy in your life, and those things are going to continue to happen to you. You're going to allow those emotions to come to you and to be able to replicate them more for when these things start happening to you more, because you deserve that. I feel like if we get into this slump of, oh yeah, well that happened, whatever, then the universe is going to be like, well, damn girl, I thought that was kind of cool. You didn't? Okay. I won't let that happen again then. So the next thing we're going to cover in this episode is how I deal with rejection in the industry. If you want to pursue this at all, you kind of already go into it knowing there's going to be a lot of it. So I feel like it's not so black and white in your face when it starts happening, because you're like, okay, I can't book everything I get. Like, yeah, I've had 40 no's, which seems like a lot of rejection, and it is to the normal person, but I think to us actors, we are able to kind of take that for a certain amount of time and be okay with it, right? Now, what starts to happen for me in my experience is the rejection that comes when you start getting close on roles, and then you start getting like rejected there. So for me, it's been really difficult to, it's one thing to audition for something and not get a call back or not get anything heard, right? You're just like, you're kind of throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks. You're doing the work and you're hoping to book something soon. But that to me isn't necessarily like a straight rejection. For me, it's when I get a call back or I get pinned for something and then I don't get it. And that happens over and over and over again. That makes me feel real sad. Okay. And I think a way that I deal with this is just continuing to build my confidence by taking back the control that I do have, by going to acting class, by talking to people that I know will motivate me, by listening to other actors' stories on YouTube, by hearing Viola Davis talk about imposter syndrome, by inundating myself with these types of positive loops that can kind of go in my head and be like, okay, dude, you are not the only one who's dealing with this. And I'm here to tell you right now, I am still dealing with it to this day. Like, you have no idea. There's things that something that just happened to me recently, 2 weeks ago, that was truly like, it's heartbreaking for an actor, right? I got just pretty much a door slammed into my face, something that I thought was going. And then they were like, actually, we don't want her anymore. And you can't help, I cried like all night, you can't help but feel rejected and like you're not good enough. What I had to do, did I say 2 weeks ago? I meant less than a week ago this happened. There's nothing else I can do but pick myself back up. This is my dream, feel the feelings and go, okay, that was not meant for me. There is something so perfect, so big for me that I cannot even wrap my mind around what that is. Believing, trusting the process, trusting my passion, right? Checking in with myself. Okay, how do you feel about this? Why do you feel about it? Do you feel like you can move on? Yeah, I do. Okay, great. Then let's do that. Again, talking about control. There's in this industry, in any industry, all you can do is be prepared and hope that the timing lines up with something that you're right for. And then guess what? You get to have that thing. The universe hands that to you. It is for you. Not everything is going to work out. Not everything is going to be for you. And you have to be okay with that. Feel the feels and then move on and know that there is something better for you. Okay. I wasn't meant to have that role that I thought was going to be mine for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Your mind goes to places when you think that you are close to something. You think that that's your livelihood, your life. And this is why, okay, here's a great example. So when you book something or when you think you're booking something and you tell people, they want to ask questions and they want to know when you're going to go shoot it and when you're going to do this. And I love that. And I totally understand it. But I have a very protective barrier around acting for a specific reason, for this reason, this thing that just happened to me recently. It's like, you don't know when it's going to be like, what's going to happen with it. You can't be too sure. You don't have any control. There's so many cooks in the kitchen. We're dealing with money. We're dealing with networks. 99.9% of the time, it has nothing to do with you, why you didn't book something. Let me say that for the people in the back. 99.9% of the time, it has nothing to do with you that you didn't book something. It has to do with a look. It has to do with a vibe. It has to do with money. It has to do with timing, age, all of these other things that we can't control. All you can control is putting the work in. Are you prepared? Are you memorizing your lines? Are you, doing the best that you can in that moment? I know things are hard right now with self-taping and trying to get the best person to read for you and making sure that you coach and that you have the right background and you're wearing the right outfit. And I get all of that. You guys, in any job out there in the world, people deal with these types of things, okay? We didn't choose a 9 to 5 job. We chose something a little more abstract. And these are the kinds of things that you're going to have to deal with. But you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. That is a fact. I am not special. The only thing I'm special about is the fact that I've been pursuing this for 10 years and I still love it. And I haven't given up and that I do have this outlook because of my experiences. So the original question is, how have I dealt with rejection? I've dealt with rejection by not taking it personally, by knowing that it's not about me, by constantly reminding myself I am enough, by stating affirmations every single day with my morning routine journaling method that I do every day, telling myself, you're good enough. Keep going. It's okay. You're a great actor. These are things that I write every single morning in my magic journal is I am the lead in a show. I am, these types of things that I tell myself. So it's no wonder that when something like what happened to me a week ago hits me for 24 hours, believe me, it did. My friends got phone calls of me crying. Like it's hard, but you just have to really know that it's something better is out there for you and just to keep going. And on the other side of all of this is something amazing that was meant for you and actually a role that you wanted to play. Another example is last year in 2022, I booked a show called 911 on Fox. And it was so much fun. It was a huge guest star role. The cast was saying like, oh, we've never had a guest star that's been in like every single episode. I worked like 8 out of the 8 days that the episode shot. And I worked across Angela Bassett and you can imagine how amazing that was. And I loved this character. Honestly, you guys, chef's kiss, amazing experience. Okay, let me tell you why I'm telling you this. 2 years ago, in 2021, I also booked 911. And I was shooting a show called All American at the time. And I was on fire. You know how that happens. You start booking, you start getting callbacks, and then all of a sudden it's all happening at once. When it rains, it pours. And I'm shooting All American, and I also threw out an audition for 911, and I booked it. And my agent and manager called me. They're like, you booked it? Oh my God. And then the next day they're like, it is overlapping with the days that you're supposed to be shooting All American. And I'm like, please make it work. Like, make it work. And they're like, it can't work. Guess how many days that 911 episode was shooting? One day. It was a fun guest star, right? She gets to like sink in the mud and all this cool stuff. And I thought that it was life or death. I was like, no, I want to, I've been auditioning all year. I haven't booked one thing. I book All American and I finally book another show to be like a fun guest star on. And you're telling me I can't shoot it? Are you kidding me? I was so upset. I was like, wow, this would happen. And they're like, we can't make it work, And I'm like, I was super bummed. Again, it's been a dry spell all year. I book one thing and then I book another thing. Like the fact that it couldn't work out was really upsetting to me. Guess why the universe didn't want that to work out? Because the next year I got to shoot an incredible run on 911 because you can't work on a show twice, right? You're a character. You can't be a different character than the next season. I thought back on that moment and I was like, wow, that's why I wasn't able to shoot it. I truly thought at the moment, I was like, universe, you were so messed up. Why couldn't you just make it work to where I could shoot both, be living my dreams? No, it beyond worked out. And I met some incredible people. It really obviously worked out for the better. So those are moments that I look back on and I'm like, okay, they help. They bring perspective. they bring it so the next time that happens to you, you can kind of reflect back and be like, remember when that one thing happened? Well, here's me telling you what happened to me that I hope can help you for when these experiences happen to you, or when you feel like truly there are no balls in your court, you feel like nothing is going for you, your show didn't get picked up, you haven't booked in 6 months, you've never booked anything, you've gotten 6 callbacks and you've never booked anything. Been there, been in all 4 of those positions that I just named. It's going to work out for the better. Just make sure that you're in alignment with what you want in life and that you're checking in with yourself. You're taking that time to journal. You're taking that time to put in the self-work, the work into acting, the business side of things, right? Are you organized on your agent and manager? Are you caught up? Have you had that meeting with them? Like, get your ducks in a row. It makes you feel better. And again, just know that everything is working out in divine timing for you. Okay, I had another question come in on Instagram that said, have you ever got choked up on set or felt like you were going to forget your lines, and how did you handle it? And if that hasn't happened to you, how have you prepared to make sure that that doesn't happen? I have not had the experience where I get choked up or I forgot my lines. Well, of course I've forgotten my lines, but all you need to do is say line to the scriptie and she tells you your line. So that should never be something that we have to really stress or have anxiety about. They're there to help you, right? There are a bunch of people on set. Everyone is there to make it go smoothly. I will say one thing that has happened to me that is my own fault and that terrifies me for the future in happening is that I can be a giggler on set. So on my most recent guest star on CSI Las Vegas, one of the cast, her and I, we hit it off, and we were always laughing in the green room and laughing as we did lines and everything. And so sure enough, one of our scenes comes together and we're looking at each other and I'm like, oh, hell no, we cannot do this. And she's laughing and I'm laughing. And there's a lot of people there that are their time and their energy, and it's all on us to make sure that this happens and it goes smoothly. And we were giggling, and it was, you guys, I was pinching myself really hard to try to make myself stop laughing, and we ended up getting the take. But that is just like a side that, that's not like necessarily choking up or forgetting lines or anything. It's just something that has happened to me in the past, and it happened a lot when I worked on Siren. With my castmate Alex, we would just make eye contact and start rolling laughing. So we could not look at each other for any scenes. I'm not kidding. Like, I would be looking at his like forehead or his neck. That is something that like scares me for the future because I need to control that. Anyways, but how do I prepare myself to make sure that, I don't get choked up or I don't feel like I don't know any of my lines? I mean, you guys, I think it's really important to memorize your lines for auditions, for set. That should be embedded in us, right? There's some acting studios that do it to where like, oh, like, let's just, come into class and cold read. And I think that's a great exercise. But I don't think that should be done every single time. Like, that is the work. That is what needs to be there. Also, if you're not the writer of the show, you need to know what they wrote and have that in the back of your hand. You might want to have questions or change something or ask the writer, director, like, hey, what do you think about this? But in order to really feel free and really play and really be thrown curveballs from the director, which is going to happen, or from your castmate that you're in a scene with, you have to know those lines inside and out. And so I think that is something that I make sure that I have down pat, but I don't give myself anxiety over it. Worst comes to worst, you're allowed to call out line and someone is there right there. And literally the line is said in the distance. So you never, fun fact, if you've never been on set, you never have to worry about, not having the lines in your pocket or something like that. There's always someone there to help. But yes, you need to know your lines. And I think if that's a struggle for you to get better at it, if you're not auditioning a lot right now, then you need to just like go online and print monologues and print sides and kind of make it like a weekly thing where you memorize a monologue or memorize a scene and kind of, make that a habit that you do, because you guys, we can do anything that we put our mind to. Like if I want to become a great chef, I can if I wanted. I just have to practice cooking, right? If I want to be an artist, I have to draw every day. Writers, what do they say they do every single day? Every day. Even if it's shit, they write. If you feel like not confident with writing, with memorizing your lines, then make that a habit. Start trying to memorize lines. Another thing that I do when I feel like I want to make sure that I can take a curveball that's being thrown at me on set is I like to spitball it with friends, like the sides. It depends on how the gravity to the scene. Like, do I want a friend to help me with that? But if it's like a fun scene, I might want to do it with a girlfriend and see like how we banter off each other. That might bring out ideas. And I definitely do it out loud personally, right? This is my process. I mean, tiny part of it, but I make sure to say it out loud, my scenes by myself in my room so I can hear what it sounds like. I think that's really helpful. But another thing to kind of build that confidence in the scene so you don't feel like you're going to choke or something is if you have an anxiety about that specific scene, I think a way to release that is to call the director over. Hey, so I've really been, I've been working on today's scene and I have some questions. There's no bad questions. They love collaborating. That is why they do what they do. A lot of directors, hopefully, okay, actually not all of them, but some directors, they do this to collaborate with the actor. That's their favorite thing to do. So, ask them like, I was a little confused here, or what do you think about this idea? And they might be like, oh, I think that's the wrong direction, and then you could not, be like, oh, okay, why is that? Or totally, I understand that. For me, if I were to ask a director, hey, I thought about this approach, what do you think? And they're like, no, we were thinking, he's in the room with the creator, with the writers, with everyone. We were thinking it's more like this. I'm probably going to believe him and I'm going to go off of what he just told me. But guess what? It just kind of got rid of that anxiety of like, should I try this? Should I try that? Should I try this? Also, you are there to play and have fun. So like no one is judging you for trying different things. Another reason why you should get it out by yourself in your bedroom or with an audition coach. I feel like the more prepared you can be, the better. However, when you walk on to set, throw all of that away. And I know that term is like thrown around, but it's already there. It's already embedded in you, right? You've been practicing, you've been doing your stuff. Now it's not that moment anymore. It's not yesterday when you were in your room. It's not 20 minutes ago in your trailer. It's right now. So throw all that away and have fun. That's what, that's why you do this. That's why you're there. And if you do choke or if you do forget your lines, don't be hard on yourself. It happens to the greatest of the greats of the greats of the greats. And I think that's something that helps me in general in this industry is just realizing like this happens to Denzel Washington, it happens to Natalie Portman, it happens to Angela Bassett, okay? You just got to keep going. You got to build that confidence. The only thing that builds confidence is practice, is getting out there in the field. You can learn all you want, but guess what? Knowledge isn't power. Action is power. So get out there on the field and that's how you're going to gain that confidence. So in the poll that I did on Instagram, the last question was, what is my experience on shows that I've booked? And I'm not going to do that right now because we have run out of time, but that'll be in the next Chat with Nat episode. But to give you a little preview, I thought it would be fun to kind of talk with you about my experience of going from not acting ever a day in my life to booking Siren, to then booking Hawaii Five-0, and then doing Raising Kanan, and then Tell Me Lies, booking All American and getting recast, CSI Las Vegas and shooting that. So I'm going to go through each experience, the audition process, what it was like to be on set, what it was like with the other actors, the casting directing process, how it works with my agents and managers, when it comes out, all that fun stuff. So that'll be in the next Chat with Nat episode. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I kind of just stream of conscious rambled on, but I hope that it was enjoyable. And if you did like this episode or you feel inspired at all, please make sure to rate and review it. And if you have any questions or you want to be a part of next week's topic, please make sure to reach out to me on Instagram at Natalee Linez or to email us at press@grounduppodcast.com. And thank you so much for listening. I will chat with you guys next time. Bye.